Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tony Pezza, and the company is called American Standard Businesses, and we've been doing business education for more than 45 years. We are the number one information center for small businesses, and our background verifies that, as we have done hundreds of thousands of business owners and transacted thousands of business. So what we're going to do here, this is a program. On this page here, you'll see copy, which you should read. And what it is, it's very simple. We spelled out is that we were doing our podcast webinars, and we have a presentation tab. It looks like a blackboard, and that'll be used in our presentation. Now, all of these videos we do, including our radio show and all our podcasts, will be on the social media, and they'll also be on the website, which is called, it's a brand new website, First Look Business Videos. And you'll be able to go to that site and see all of our radio shows and our podcasts. This is the first of 100. We're going to do 2 a week, so it won't take that long, but in the meantime, you'll get education every time you listen to the program. So our podcasts are a lot different than what you're going to be used to listening to. We don't talk theory. I hate the word theory in business because most people talk theory. Just go to your website, find somebody that's talking in taglines or subject lines, but there's never really an explanation of what they're talking about. We are going to explain every item word by word, make it very foolproof for you to understand, and you'll be able to know the difference between theory and substance, my two favorite words. When you hear my podcast, you'll hear it all the time. Theory is something you can't use to make a profit or run a business, and substance is what you really need. And we offer substance, been doing it for 45 years, as I said. So our First Look Business Video is the new site. All of these videos, including our radio show, as I said, will be on the podcast. The difference between the podcast and the webinars, the podcast you don't see me. The webinars you'll be able to see my face and still have an illustration, where the podcast will be just done with the PowerPoint presentation, but it'll still be the same explanation. So we're going to move on. So when you're done with this page here, we'll see you on next page, which is page 2. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just completed page 1. We're now going to move on to page 2, as we said earlier. And this is page 2, and this is our national guarantee that we have, which is the number one guarantee for small business in the country, trust me. And what we have is our guarantee is a 4-day seminar, which will be held on April 24th to the 27th at the Newark Airport Hotel, or the Doubletree Hotel at the Newark Airport. And that'll be a 4-day starting on Thursday. Thursday evening would be a cocktail party, complimentary. And then we have 3 days of workshop and education with speakers and accountants, attorneys, business marketing people, classroom seminars within the program itself. So we do all that, and we have 100% guarantee, as I said, the only one in the country that offers guarantee for businesses, unlike any other guarantee. The benefits you will receive are greater than $25,000. We give you guarantee for up to 24 months. We work with you on all the programs, marketing, analysis. We do your business evaluation for you. So you will receive, as I said, more than $25,000. That includes a 25-hour course, a 25-hour educational course once per year, so that alone is worth thousands of dollars. The other thing, as part of the is that we show the business owner how to increase his business for sale by more than 20% of the cost of the sale price. So if we're looking at a $100,000 sale price, once you complete the course, possibly you can be greater than 20% higher on your sale price, which would be around $120,000. So that's what we teach you during workshops. As I said, we're the only company, the firm American Standard Businesses, that offers a full guarantee up to 24 months. But during the 24 months, we do educate you, we support you. We have open line communications, open line phone lines, ongoing marketing, ongoing education. Again, number one in the country. And give us a call. The number's on the screen, bottom of the page, and we'll be glad to sign you up for a guarantee. Thank you very much, and we'll move on to page number 3 now. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tony Pezza, and we're going to bring you a podcast on 6 different subjects, starting with retail, storefront, brick and mortar. And what we're going to attempt to do is we're going to attempt to give you a layout of what each business offers and what business would fit you in terms of your pocketbook, your experience, and your knowledge. So the first business that we're going to talk about, which is your standard retail brick and mortar storefront. So what happens is that a retail store is, as I said, retail is brick and mortar storefront. Now, those are basic terms, but those terms really are very important to understand the difference between your retail operation and your other 6 that we're going to represent to you today. So let's talk about retail for a few minutes. Let me also back up and tell you that our podcast would be probably around 100. They'll be on our new website, which is called firstlookbusinessvideos.biz, and you can pick up these podcasts that are educational, informative, and will lead you in the right direction. Also on the same page, at the bottom of the page, we have a call-in talk radio program where you can call in and ask questions, and the number is on the bottom of the page, along with the copyright that we have copyrighted all of our materials. So the retail brick and mortar storefront is very simple. You go downtown shopping and you go in and you buy a pair of shoes and you pay either with a check or credit card or cash, and that is an exchange of funds for a product. In basic terms, that's a retail operation. And what these retail businesses do, there's thousands of them out there probably, and some of them work out of garages where you have multiples. They're also called retail, even though they're not brick and mortar in a store, but you pay a price for a for a product, not for a service. So that basically is your retail. Now, there's lots of retail with different markets, which we're not going to get in today. That'll be another podcast. And what we're going to do with that is that each retailer will show you or tell you basically what their markup is on their product. For instance, let's say you have a white tablecloth restaurant versus fast food. They're both restaurants, but they have different markups. So we're going to go into each one of these subjects one at a time. As I said, we're going to have this on the website. It'll be on the social media, Facebook, YouTube. You're familiar with the terminology social. So to sum up this one retail unit is that a retail is an exchange for merchandise. Of course, there's other exchanges, but I'm going to explain to you as we go. So we're not going to cover every business in one podcast. This is only going to be about 30 minutes, this podcast. And the podcast will run between 30 and 40 minutes on average. But as I said, there'll be over 100 up there. You can collect them, you can save them, you can download them, you can put them in a library, you can put them on a recording. Because they'll be archived, and you can go back and you can check them out anytime you want. Also, on the archives is my phone number for the radio show. You can give me a call, and we could get you set up with that. So the first one we have of the 6 is retail storefront brick and mortar. And as I said, that is basically a storefront where you pay a price for a product. The retail, we're now going to go into wholesalers. And a wholesaler is a reseller of a product. Now, what does that mean? That means very simple that wholesaler deals mainly with the manufacturer who manufactures the product. Now, manufacturer does not want to go door to door, store to store, and have a million trucks running around. So what they do is they designate a wholesaler to be their distributor. Now, what happens with that? He has a contract with the wholesaler that he will cover a certain area. And that area would be a state or 2 states or a town, depends how many he has. Like, for instance, Coca-Cola is a franchise location, but they're also wholesalers in the sense that they buy direct from Coke, and they distribute Coke product to individual stores, so they become wholesalers. Now, that applies to any business, whether it's food or non-food. Now, so what happens is that when I was in the meat business, we had wholesalers that bought direct from, let's say, IBP, which is Iowa Packers, the pork companies, Purdue, the chicken companies, and they would buy, and they would be their distributor for, let's say, a whole state. So if you wanted to place an order, you could place it direct with the manufacturer, but the manufacturer would ship to the distributor, and the distributor would then ship to you. And he would keep an inventory, and that inventory would mean that in case you run out of product, you can call him on Friday afternoon, say, I have a chicken sale, or I have a product sale, or I'm out of a product. I need a delivery tomorrow morning or late today. Can you do it? And usually they're accommodating. So in basic term, wholesaler is a redistributor or a reseller, not a distributor, a reseller of a product. So if he's buying a product from any manufacturer at X, let's say X is $1, and he's going to put his markup on there, and usually the manufacturers like to control the markup with the wholesalers. They don't want you getting crazy on it now. So what they'll do is they'll say, okay, $1 for the cost. The wholesaler might say, okay, you can work on 12 or 14%, whatever that number is, depends on the product. And then that's what they have to work with. And then they built in their costs. So it's a matter of numbers and games and product. So a wholesaler, unlike your retailer that we had at the first beginning of the podcast, is that you don't walk into a wholesaler and pay for a product. He delivers to your store, your location. Now, wholesalers come in all different sizes and products. As I said, some are perishables, some are non-perishables. Some are for, let's say, nuts and bolts and screws and, different products. You go to Home Depot, you got wood and you got tools, and so they do work with distributors. Or they might work direct to the manufacturer, depends on the amount they're buying. Larger companies will work direct with the manufacturer, but they do have side distributors for smaller products or even for larger products in case they run out. So don't confuse the two. A retailer is a different source of business. You're paying a product at a retail level, and a wholesaler is selling to you at a wholesale price to a company. When I was involved with Foodtown Supermarkets, we had a lot of wholesalers. Twin County was one, White Rose Foods. We had the beef company. We had the bakeries. So they were all distributors. Enterman's is another one. They are baker products, but they do have the trucks on the road that are wholesalers. And they sell to you, and you pay them, and they pay the wholesaler. So it is a good system because what happens is that it allows you to know you have someone close by that you can go buy product for, and they're willing to deliver. And then you can cut deals with them. If they get a sale, they'll offer the sale to you. So there's a lot of different things you can do with a wholesaler that you can't do with a retailer because the retailer is really involved with the direct. See, so to back up the difference, the retailer is selling to you, the wholesaler sells to the retailer, and the retailer sells to you. So you have a cycle of dollar exchange. So if you're a larger company, a supermarket, a warehouse, and you need larger deliveries, truckloads, half truckloads, contract, you go to a wholesaler, you're still going to get the product, the quality, and the price. So with that said, don't mix up the two, wholesale and retail. And prices are different, just like retail. Wholesale prices are different, as I said, because of the markup. Perishables usually have a smaller markup versus non-perishables. They work on a higher markup. So percentage-wise and markups, we're going to get that into another podcast because that's a whole series of numbers and calculations, and I don't want to confuse you with that. So wholesale does different from retail, and if you're in that business where you're the end user, deal with a wholesaler, it's a lot cheaper. Okay, now that we've covered retail and wholesaler, now the next group, one of six, or there's the third of six, is called manufacturing. A manufacturer is obviously the manufacturer of a product. Now, I was a manufacturer for years when I had a food company. Used to manufacture food for the airlines and the supermarkets. I was a manufacturer, and I had a distributor. Remember, I talked about distributors. I worked with the distributors at the airports. My delivery system, my product was sold between Boston and Florida. I used to run tractor trailers, refrigerated and frozen. So I was a manufacturer of a product. I made eggs for the airlines for their breakfast program. I made overseas flights, dinners. I serviced all the supermarkets in New Jersey, convenience stores. On Italian product was called Cresticello Foods. The company was called Crest Foods. And we did manufacturing. Now, a manufacturer that sells to a wholesaler, remember we did retail and wholesale, now we're going to manufacturer. The manufacturer actually manufactures a product. He puts his price on it and his profit. Now, he can go direct to an end user, which is the airlines, or he can go direct to a supermarket, which is okay. But a lot of cases, a lot of these big companies don't deal direct with the wholesaler or the manufacturer. So now what happens is that the airlines or a lot of the supermarkets have their own distribution centers, or wholesalers. And what happens is that when you cut a contract with an airline, they usually have you go through a commissary that supplies all of the airports with different foods besides food, dry goods and other products. So you can do that. In my case, I sold contract to the airlines, and then I went through a company in the airports called Airwicart, and there's other ones. Through the supermarkets, I dealt with Twin County, and I dealt with Wakefern. So those are the companies, distribution, wholesalers, centers where they deliver to the supermarkets all of the products, frozen, dry, and perishables. So a manufacturer, unlike your retailer, unlike your wholesaler, is actually the manufacturer of the product. He determines your basic cost. The wholesaler is putting his profit, and then the retailer is the end. So if you consider it like a set of stairs. You have the first one who manufactures, the second one who then does the distribution, the wholesaler, not a distributor. I don't want to use that word again. It's wholesaler, who's pricing and delivering, and then the retailer is the end user. So these three make up basically your process for buying and selling a product. Any product, I don't care if it's cars. That's a good example. The new car carriers probably do direct with General Motors, but they might be a guy in between. They may be a different company that does different things. So I don't know how they actually work, but there could be a wholesaler involved there someplace. So your three different groups really have all different types of markups, and we're going to get into actual dollars and pennies and cents as we go along the podcast. But for now, all you have to remember is that you have the stairs, the stepping stone, 1, 2, 3, manufacturer, wholesale, and retail, and we have 3 more to go. So what we're going to do is we will continue on with the other 3 once we finish up with this one here, and then we'll move on. We'll give you further explanations of what these different programs are. Now, this is important. If you're going to buy a business or start a business, you have to know what the difference is between the markup on different groups, whether you want to be wholesaler, whether you're buying from a wholesaler. And so if you're in retail, try to deal direct with the manufacturer. Not a wholesaler, you get a cheaper price, but in most cases, you probably can't. So we will continue our other 3 in a moment. Now that we've done the retail, wholesale, and manufacturing, now we're going to move on to distribution. Now, unlike the other 3, this is a little bit different. Like the other 3 are different from each other. A distributor who distributes merchandise, many cases works for a company that is the manufacturer. So what happens is that the distributor now will distribute the product to the individual store location or outlet. So what happens is that as a distributor, the people that do the manufacturing will sometimes send their product to a distribution center, and that distribution center now will deliver to the store and get billed from the company itself, the manufacturer, not the distributor. So let's go back to manufacturing. If you're a manufacturer, and let's say I was delivering to the airlines, I use a company to do the distribution to the airlines. Some of it I do it myself, but some came out through distribution centers. So what happens is that the product goes to the distribution center, who now has the orders of where they have to go to. So let's say, for instance, I was delivering product to Kennedy or LaGuardia or wherever the area was, because we did cover Boston to Florida. So I would send my product to the distributor with a distribution or a delivery schedule. Let's say that one of the airlines was getting, let's say, 50 cases of a product. He would have the schedule of where they had to go on a certain day. So let's say that they had to be to there on Monday morning at 4 in the morning or 5 o'clock for the flights. He would deliver it. He would know the schedule, and then the fees were already paid in most cases. I paid the fees for the delivery, which saved me time of bringing my trucks into New York. So that's how distribution works. There's other ways to do it. I could have shipped the product out to a distributor, and then he could put on his fee, and then he would go to the airlines, and it was already paid for or not paid for. Let's say the airlines wanted to pay them for the distributor, and I would discount my price on the other end. So there's a lot of different ways for distribution or distributors that work. As I said, you can prepay it, or you could take it off the bill for distributing. But there's different ways. Like I said, some were prepaid and some were not. But the distributor, unlike the retail, wholesale, manufacturer, has a different function when it comes to actually delivering the product to the location. So And he is responsible for the product. Even though you paid the freight going to and from, he's still responsible for the product, and therefore he would have to supply you as the manufacturer. He would have to supply you with insurance to make sure that you had product's liability, damage for insurance. In case there was a fire, your product was there, because I would be sitting with product in a warehouse, could be thousands of dollars. But when I had the export company, we're talking about a trailer load that was probably $300,000. So you got a lot of different costs here. You got to be very careful on your distribution centers, who they are. Always try to work with people that are reliable. They've been in business for a while. They have a good reputation. The trucks are up and running. The delivery people, the drivers are know the area, because when you deliver, you want to be delivering on time. So, okay, that covers distribution. I'm sure there's more to go into, but you get the basic idea of what a distributor does. He delivers product to a location preset and pre-designed by you, delivering your product under the control of your billing or not billing, and the end user, which would be at the time the airlines or warehouse, wherever I was delivering. They would then have the product delivered to them on a certain date, a certain time. So we're going to move on to the other two subjects we have. This is the fifth of the six that are on your screen, and this is called home-based businesses. That, unlike all of these other businesses that I mentioned, wholesale, retail, manufacturing, distribution, a home-based business is probably the cheaper of the startup businesses, and least costly, least paperwork, least investment, obviously. So, because a home-based business, you can work out of your home. If you want to go in the insurance business, you could be an agent for an insurance company. You can work out of your home. You don't need an office. You want to do outside accounting work. If you're an accountant, you work out of your home. You don't need a big office. If you want to farm out different programs that you can do, you could then have these set up so that they are available for you as far as the home-based businesses goes. As I said, they're a least startup of the industry because you work out of your own home. You take a room on the side, you set up your phone number, you set up your corporation, and you just get all that done, and then you're fine. But there's so many home-based businesses, distribution, you can't do distribution out of there because you need a warehouse. But what you can do is you can do a lot of businesses. Real estate people work out of their homes. A lot of insurance companies, accounting offices, singles that are single accountants, not to work in an office, but they work out of their office. They work for another firm. People that do marketing work out of their home. People that do analysis work out of their home. These are all home-based businesses, and what happens with them, they now become functionable because they're easy to run. You don't need a lot of paperwork. The only thing is you have to be careful with insurances. If you're doing commercial, if you have people come to your home and you have a business, now you're going to fall under the commercial zoning, and that you got to be very careful of, because the commercial zoning, if your house is zoned residential, somebody's going to call the authorities on you, and then you're going to have a problem with that. So check for your zoning, see what you have, and if you're commercial, you're okay. If you're residential, you have to be very careful, because you can't have people coming in and out of your house. Now you become a business. And you can't do that in a residential home. Neighbors will bother, particularly if you got cars in the driveway and people in and out. So go by the rules, go by the regulations. If you're a home-based business, as I said, it's the cheaper of the bunch. And a lot of people that have commercial zoning in their homes, they do hair salons, they do hair cutting, they do different things that are easy to set up, a barbershop, a chair, and you're in business. But that's one of them. I said you can do accounting at it, you can do marketing, you can do insurance, you can do real estate. You can do an awful lot of activity out of your home without getting into thousands and thousands of dollars. You should be able to do a home-based business basically for under $1,000. You probably need a phone line, computer you probably have already in the house. You have to get your own phone line, build a few business cards. Because I've done a lot of counseling on home-based businesses, and a lot of these individuals work out very well with them. But depends on what kind of business you want to do. If you want to go out and do a large business, you have to do it through a different format. You can't do it at a home-based business. So anyway, it's good for a startup. If you don't have a lot of money and you want to do a home-based business and you want to get into business, you can do it, particularly if you're in the field, like I said, real estate, insurance. You can work out of your home. And a lot of people do that for a number of years, and they're still doing it today. So home-based business, easy to do, cheap to do. Just make sure you get yourself set up as a corporation or individual. Check with your accountant. Check with your attorney for legal. and see what kind of product you have. If you're not selling a product, check on with your insurance if you need any liability insurance. So if you do all that, you'll be on the right track. But again, it depends on what you want to do. A lot of people do home-based business because they don't have the thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars to go and open up a restaurant, a coffee shop, a trucking outfit, a business where you need a storefront. You talked about retail storefronts, and that's the very first thing we did. So that's very expensive. Home-based business is not expensive. So with that, you can do it very simply, and we'll be able to move you along those lines, okay? And we're going to get to another version of what we do on, or this is number 5 of the 6, and we'll be doing number 6 right now. Our next category, which is professional services, is the last of 6. And this, is important because all of these groups that we gave you, there's a lot more in businesses. See, a lot of these become subcategories, and we're not going to do that. So you do have your retail, your wholesale, your manufacturing, and then you have your distributors. And then the home base is your first 5, and then the last one is professional services. Now, that's very simple and clear. That comes under your legal, your accountant, your insurance people. Those are professional services. Now, you also have other professional services that are not legal. Some of the people that service you, an insurance agent that services you, is giving you professional services. A lot of the professional salons give you professional services. That you go in there and you get your hair done, that's a service. It's professional service. They're professional hairstyles. So that comes under a lot of different groups. As I said, your insurance is a professional service. They're going to come and talk to you about insurance, particularly if they're ongoing with you. Your stock and loan people, they'll give you professional services. So it don't have to be legal, accounting, or marketing, or any of those. It could be outside services. I said it could be your hairdresser, it could be insurance guy, it could be a real estate person. Anybody that comes and gives you a personal service. They clean your home. That's a personal service. So again, we're talking about different rates and different prices and more professional. Your real professionals would be your attorney, your accountant, your insurance people. Those are your real professionals. So is the stock, people that sell you stock and options. They're professionals. But it still comes under the header of services. Like I said, they clean your house. It's a service, so that's okay. That's what you can do. So, but the thing is that you want to make sure that you break out the different services, what you want to, what service you're going to go into. So, and these are not home-based businesses. They're not like your retail, your wholesale, the manufacturing. These are a group unto themselves. Their services, as I said, professional and more professional. And you have different, again, like any business, there's different fees and different services or different prices. We know what the attorneys and the accountants are. Basically, if you dealt with them, you know what their fees are. And you go get your hair cut, you get a service, you pay by the cut. You get you women who get your hair washed and colored and set, and you're looking at a $150 bill by the time you're done. So services come under a large group. I said the real professionals, and then you have the sub-professionals, I call them, your hairdressers and people that sell you insurance or marketing. So you do have a wide majority of services out there. You can even call a taxi driver service. He drives you to and from. It's a personal service. It's an auto service. So services come under different groups. But unlike the other ones that we talked about, they don't fall into the retail end of it or the manufacturing. So when I said at the beginning of this podcast is that there's so many businesses out there and different prices and different programs, of which we're not going to get into on this podcast. This is strictly to break out the 6 groups so you understand there's a difference in them. Now, within these 6 groups, you have subgroups or sub-accounts, as I call them. So, which we'll get into more podcasts as we go. So for the purpose of this podcast is that these 6 groups will cover basically most of the businesses out there and the professionals and the home-based and on and on and on. So, and this is only to give you an idea of the basic groups that run businesses or have businesses. And at one time or another in your life, you're going to deal with some of these people along the way. They're in the, any one of the 6 groups. So digest them, make your own notes when you go over this, write down some professionals that I missed maybe. Of course, I didn't spend a lot of time on a lot of these, but your retail, your storefront, wholesale. And I'm sure a lot of people that are reading this podcast are in business or have dealt with a distributor or wholesale or a home-based business or professionals. We all deal with professionals. Hell, I don't know if anybody hasn't used an attorney or an accountant at one time or another. So these are the 6 basic groups. It's like the food groups. We are the 6 basic groups that we're going to continue to go on. As we'll break these down further, we'll break them down cost and analysis, more podcasts. So these basically are your simple programs that you can work with. We have one more to go, which is the final of this podcast, and we'll get to that shortly. This is the last of this podcast. And what we do on our podcast and our radio program, we put a disclaimer in there. Disclaimer is very simple. It just makes you aware that the information I supply through my podcast, through my radio show, through my social media is brought to you from my own experience of 45 years. And that's because I have no other way to explain a product or a program or a solution except to talk about it and to tell you in words instead of send you a long 1,000-word letter. So this is the shortest way of communication. So our disclaimer is that anything that you've heard is of my own experience. It's brought to you from my own knowledge, and it has worked for 45 years. And so what we do here is we just let you know that you have to do your own homework. Everything you've learned or everything you see here or everything you've read on the program or on the radio show, you still have to do your own homework. We can only guide you, we could assist you, we can help you. But we can't do, there was a movie one time says, I can take you, but I can't do for you. So we can do that. We can take you, we can show you, we can advise you, we can give you information, but you have to do for yourself. Go do your own homework, talk to your own people, get some more information. So our disclaimer is very simple. We give you what we know from experience, and that's all we can do for you. And it's not meant to offer you success unless you take our guarantee course, which I'll get into in the same podcast here. So with that said, all of the material that you see here, what you heard, what you hear on my radio show, what you hear on our socials, all has been copyrighted and recorded. They are the property of American Standard Businesses only. They cannot be duplicated, sold, or recorded. That is our copyright disclaimer. The other thing is that we do have a radio show called Business Talkback. You can listen to my show every Monday, Wednesday, Friday on Blog Talk Radio. And if you go to Blog Talk Radio, you type in Business Talkback, you can listen to the show. And if you'd like to talk to me personally, you can call me on the air at 646-478-4796, 646-478-4796. And we could talk business and shop, or you can ask me any question you want about this podcast and the 6 groups that we just mentioned, starting from retail and ending with professional services. So we're going to close out this podcast. As I said, you can give me a call on the number that's on the screen. I just gave you the number again if you want to talk to me on the air. And also we offer a free business newsletter. So if you would like to receive a free business newsletter, it has a $129 value. There's no cost, no fees or obligation. Give me a call again on the air at 646-478-4796. They'll take your information, or if you want, you go to Tony at mysmallbusiness.biz. That's Tony at mysmallbusiness.biz. And just say you read the podcast, you heard the radio broadcast, and you would like a free newsletter, and we will send it out to you at the middle of the month. We do mailings once a month on the 15th. So if you want that, any portion of it, you have the phone number, you have my email address, give us a call, and we will close out this podcast number 1, and we will do more as we go. As I said, we have about 100 coming up. We'll be doing about 2 a week. They'll be on the website. The website is www.callintalkradio.info. That's www.callintalkradio.info. And you can pick up this podcast along with the other podcasts we have. We have a loan program on the site. We have our guarantee seminar on the site. So there's a lot of information there. If you go there, I think you'll be pleased to read it. And you give us a call back here, and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. We will see you on podcast number 2. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.